5 on 5, high, dust 2, serve on, fast. If you recognize this, well, you're old, and you've discovered Counter-Strike at a very different time. Back then, in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source, matchmaking as we know it today didn't exist. What we now call competitive matches were referred to as wars or pracs. Two teams facing each other, and that's it. No points, no ranks, no elo. Just a game played with your friends against another team you found online, most probably on IRC. Now, what's IRC? Ask your dad, he will know. The concept of launching the game, pressing a button and being placed with 9 random players matching your level was unheard of, well, at least in Counter-Strike. That's why back then the most played modes would be FFA, that is free for all. I still remember the name of big servers and I have good memories from that time. It created communities and they were instrumental in making friends. In fact, that's how I met Vaillant, you know, the guy who was always yelling like an animal in my videos. Yeah, that's how we met. Zombie modes were quite popular as well, and let's not forget about mini-games, gun games, Surf, BAJL, FY, Hide and Seek, Death Run, and many more. Essentially, Counter-Strike was the support for many creative modes made by the community, just like what happened to Fortnite and Roblox. You wouldn't get bored of the game because there were countless games within the game. So for the players looking for some challenge and a competitive experience, it was kinda hard to find. But things began to change with the launch of CSGO and the arrival of third-party matchmaking services. And that's what we're gonna cover today. Before we go into that though, a word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Skinsmonkey, and so I need to clarify something. I've seen a couple of you saying that I'm selling out to gambling sites after all I've done, and I'm here like, no! Skinsmonkey is in no way related to gambling, it's an actual trading site, and I get why you would be confused, but this is the real one. The point is to buy, sell, or trade your CS skins, and no more than that. It's really straightforward. This is my inventory. Say I want to trade my knife for another one, I will put it here. It is worth that much, and now I can shop for the other skins I want in exchange. There's a huge amount of items to choose from, so you will find something for sure. And if you don't have skins to trade with, you can use a Skinsmonkey to buy the item you want right away with credit card, crypto, and many more. And if you put the code Jeff, you get an extra 5% deposit bonus to get a bit more out of your money. Have a look at the freebies tab if you want to take part in giveaways and tasks, and there's a 24/7 live support if you need any help. We're in 2012, Counter-Strike Global Offensive just landed after a few months in beta, and we are getting 30,000 players daily. This is where Valve introduces their matchmaking. You know it well, from Silver to Global Elite, it completely transformed how the player base would play Counter-Strike by easing the access to the competitive mode and making the community servers harder and harder to find. I mean, today the browser isn't even in the game. However, Valve's matchmaking wasn't that good. Well, feels like we've been there before, eh? Almost unplayable at times. The maps were filled with fog that obscured the gameplay for some reason, and on top of that, the anti-cheat system was as bad as today. Well, maybe even worse.
This is a demo.
Oh,
There's a team behind you!
There's a team behind you! What the fuck, dude? There's a team behind you, dude! What? Shoot him!
At the same time, server hosting companies were still quite popular. They are kinda gone today, but back in my days, hold on, I'm hearing myself. Back in my days, we needed to pay for a server and they were hard to manage. I mean, I still remember installing ZBlock and the ESL 5-on-5 CFG on my server using FileZilla and God knows how many commands. You little shits don't know how easy you have it, okay? Think of Very Games. As a Frenchie, I will hold them in my memory forever. Now, what's Very Games? Well, ask your dad. Yeah, okay, I've done that one already. It was a server hosting company, and they had lineups playing Counter-Strike professionally, and basically they had all the French legends playing for them. So at this point, on one side, you have a player base looking for a competitive experience, but they have nowhere to play it. And on the other side, you have companies that have been hosting servers with years of experience. And in the middle of this, you have Valve. You know, I guess they would just sit there and eat glue. And that's why very early in CSGO, we've seen the birth of many third-party matchmaking services. To name a few, we can think of ESL Play, Civo, ESEA, Challenge Me, PopFlash, and of course, Faceit. Their goal was to provide a better competitive experience and a better anti-cheat than what Valve would offer, which again wasn't that hard. ESL and ESEA, respectively dominant in Europe and NA, had a very strong head start as they were already present in 1.6 and Source. Well, not really as a matchmaking service per se, but their anti-cheat was already quite reputable. Just a small pause here for the millennials watching. Do you guys remember Aequitas? Well, in 2010, ESL would release a new anti-cheat called ESL Wire that reportedly cost $500,000 to develop in 2010. So you're getting the idea. ESL and ESEA were really well established already, and competing against them wasn't easy. And even better, those two companies will merge together, as in 2015 ESL will acquire both ESEA and DreamHack. So right now, you could think ESL had everything needed to dominate the market and become the Google of matchmaking services. Yet today, who plays on ESL? Their main page shows their most popular games, that is football, Brawlhalla, and Street Fighter. In fact, I bet half of you didn't even know ESL Play was a thing, but instead, every one of you heard of another company with an orange logo. Faceit was created in 2012. At first you'll find them hosting and broadcasting other games like Quake or League of Legends. It will take them some time to focus on CSGO. Their story is quite interesting, so let me know if you want me to cover it in another video, but beware, it will be a long one. Did you know they had 2 skins in game? Because I didn't, and not to mention the FPL, how it reshaped the path to go pro, their freemium system. Yeah, no doubt it would be a very long video. When Faceit arrived in Counter-Strike, they were quite the outsider, but years after years they managed to outgrow everyone else and become the titan they are today. As the player base grew bigger, so did the market for third-party matchmaking, and yet today none of these are offering a matchmaking system anymore, and for those who still exist, they moved on to something else. Now, here's a precise historical recreation of what happened in January 2022.
Habibi, how much for that thing?
You want to buy me? I don't know, bro, like $1 billion, $1 billion.
Okay, I buy it. And what about that thing over there? 500 million, okay? Good.
And that's exactly how it happened, by the way. I was there, you wouldn't know. Faceit will merge together with ESL, bought by Saudi Arabia, in a, just a very small deal of $1.5 billion, creating the biggest company we have today, the EFG ESL Faceit Group, which hires about 2,000 people. Without a doubt, it's an ovni in the gaming world, and I mean, what other dev team outsources their matchmaking to a third party? It's only us, guys. Think of 1.6 and Source. The community was in charge of itself, and the addition of matchmaking to CSGO changed everything. However, as the matchmaking proved to have many flaws, the community took it upon itself to do better and to provide a better competitive environment. I've asked you on Twitter, how many people do you think play on Faceit every day? And you are underestimating it. Now, you know me, I like numbers, so just how many players do you have to be valued at $500 million? The logical thing is to ask Faceit, which I did, and they sent me off. Confidential and all of that. Well, too bad, Mr. Faceit, because now I won't let go. My curiosity needs to be fed. So instead of an actual and official number, I thought of something. I've sent a DM to the chads at Leetify. They are a huge database tracking hundreds of thousands of players. What they do is analyze your demos and with the help of stats and very advanced algorithms tell you where you shine and where you suck to give you tips on how to improve. Which is why they have no tips for me, as I'm already perfect, it kinda makes sense. Anyway, my idea is that since they track all those players, they should have a substantial data that I can use to get some kind of approximation on how many players are actually playing on Faceit. Disclaimer showing in the background, and anything I will say from now on is pure speculation and could be wrong. Habibi, we okay? So Leetify delivered and the data blew my mind. Take a guess right now in the comments, how many players does Faceit get daily? Let's find out. We're gonna look at September 2019. They tracked 130,771 competitive and premier matches, as well as 44,748 Faceit matches. So roughly, from what Leetify is able to track, Faceit gets 1/3 of what the game gets in terms of 5-on-5. Now keep in mind, Leetify cannot track every game, so we're gonna go into that in just a bit. Now, on that same day, Leetify recorded 681,000 players who have only played matchmaking or wingman, 21,000 players who have both played on Faceit and in matchmaking, and 153,000 players who have only played on Faceit. So that's a lot, but it's probably not everything. If we look at Steam chart, 1.37 million players played CS on that day, which means Leetify had enough data to track the behavior of 856,000 players, or 62% of the total player count. So out of the 62% of the player base we can actually see and track, we are looking at 17.87% of them only playing on Faceit. Scaling that to the total player count and the estimation I can give you for how many active daily players are on Faceit, it's gonna be between 150k at the very least up to 250k. It's gonna be somewhere in between. It is a lot bigger than what you guys think, name of my sex tape. To put it in perspective, Faceit alone has a bigger player base than most of the games on Steam that would easily place them on top there. It's crazy to think about, but today, Faceit has become an extension of Counter-Strike. Without something like Faceit, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today. Can you imagine Premier being the only game mode available? I can't. If someone tells you he plays CS, you're gonna ask for his rank, but if you really play CS, you're gonna ask for his Faceit elo. No one goes, oh, you play CS, what's your challenge me rank, my dude? Today, there's still a few competitors that are trying to emerge, but I really doubt anyone can come in today and challenge what Faceit has built. Sure, Faceit has its own issues, and you can be assured I tell them regularly about it like the annoying French f*** that I am, but Faceit has established such a dominant presence, it's now very hard to imagine anyone seriously challenging their position. Ironically, Valve has been a great ally of Faceit, from the Skins game to the Faceit London Major in 2018, but I think today the only credible threat to Faceit is Valve themselves. If they were to finally follow through with what was rumored during the leak of CS2, the game is also set to include a much improved matchmaking system that is hoped will make the need for third-party pugging services unnecessary. That would be, in my opinion, the only scenario that could threaten Faceit's position, if Valve finally steps up with their matchmaking and their anti-cheat. Now, do I think that's ever gonna happen? Thank you for watching, have a good day, and post your check.